And we're live. Hello and welcome to another episode of Maddie Allin Live, here with CC of Liquid Loans. Welcome.
Hey, Maddie. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for the discussion we're going to have today about recent events in PulseChain, what the SEC case might mean for things, some of my price predictions, and also to hear straight from you and Liquid Loans as to what's going on in your ecosystem. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds fantastic, Maddie. Thank you.
Cool. Well, for everybody who's already here and for replay gang, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button and share this out because we've got a great episode for you tonight. And I can already see True Blue is out here saying hi along with Fast Abdul and some names I can't pronounce. So, yeah, thanks for being here, guys. So, I guess I haven't streamed since we found out on Friday afternoon that the SEC is begging the judge for another 30 days after she already slammed them with 31 pages of reasons why it seems like Richard Hart should and Hex should win the case of, basically rejecting the SEC's complaint on the basis of jurisdiction. I heard Nuclear Herbs speaking on somebody's channel the other day. And that was like, it was Crypto 7. Yeah. And that was enlightening.
7, yeah.
What's been your reaction to all of this?
Yeah, look, I must admit I'm along similar lines to what I heard from Nuclear Herbs. Crypto 7, that stream was quite a good one. It was quite informative for anyone that wants to understand some of the detail. Look, I always felt that, obviously there is a process, and this is as much about following a process as anything else. And, even though there was a 20-day sort of period available to the SEC to appeal, I'm not surprised that they've actually sought an extra period of time to gather information. What I heard from Nuclear Herbs, which was a bit new to me, was the potential that the judge could actually say, well, hang on, you've had 20 days. So, and nothing that you're requesting here, or you haven't provided anything that would indicate that an extra 30 days or what have you is really going to assist in progressing this matter further. So there is an equal probability that the judge just may throw this whole thing out. And I must admit, I'm hopeful for that, as you can imagine, the rest of the community is probably feeling the same way. The other interesting thing for me is that the days, and I don't know if you're aware, but I think it's the 20th or the 21st is the equinox, right? And I don't know if you know, but there is typically around this time of year, it's effectively when the sun's exactly above the equator, and it generally is an indication of change. And I also know that in Australia, one of the things that is being celebrated on the 21st, I believe, is Harmony Day, which again, all of these things, it kind of aligns, right? You kind of hope that there's some being that out there that is actually helping us on this journey. But I'm very hopeful that the judge just basically says, listen, no, you're not going to have an extension. Make a decision. You're either going to appeal or you're not. And, my hope is that there is no further appeal and we can get on with life. And the other thing here, Maddie, I feel is that I wonder how much the judge takes into consideration the impact that all of this is having, not just on Richard Hart, but the entire community, right? So we know that the majority of projects are down, and that's, we're no different to a lot of projects, but that is having an impact on the entire community. And so this sort of prolonging of the agony, so to speak, is really not very productive in any way. And I sort of wonder whether the judge may actually side on Richard's team's case and say, listen, no, this is not going to go any further. Let's just close this thing down. So that's the hope.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, Richard's team of lawyers that also represent Elon Musk and the Trump family, they made a pretty good argument to the judge on this whole extra 30 days thing, saying that the SEC has already had hundreds and hundreds of days And so
Yeah.
we'll see what the judge says. I believe the legal analysis from Nuclear Herbs said it was a 50-50 chance that she'll grant an extension. And but he seemed pretty confident, as am I, that it's even with years more, which isn't in the cards at all. But the SEC just doesn't have the facts in order to win this case. And so, yeah, right now
Yeah.
the process is the punishment, and prices are looking pretty juicy. Which that's one of the things that I've tweeted about here in the past couple of days,
Mm.
is how high I think PulseChain can go and a price prediction. And
Yeah.
I know you
Look,
asked
I
me
must
about
admit,
that before the stream.
yeah, I caught that. I caught that, and I thought, Matt, it'd be nice for you to explain a bit more about that, because I actually think, look, I tend to agree with you that a capital injection of that time is obviously going to help the chain and the majority of projects that are on the chain. So we can't divorce ourselves from what's happening in PulseChain more broadly. But can you
Yeah,
elaborate a
well,
bit more on your thoughts? Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, as I'm bringing up some of my tweets here, I mean, the other breaking news today is that the origin address in Hex has staked for what it's 2 to 15 years, all of its Hex on both chains, and that is incredible. I mean, people have been sitting on the edge of their seat for 5 years waiting for something like this to happen, and it happens today. And people may not appreciate it until it materializes into a centralized exchange listing or something. But this is a historic day for something that differentiates Hex compared to all other cryptos, in the sense that the top holder, somebody who owns like 95% of the coins, is staked. Here I'm showing just the 2-year stake here. And that has been locked into the smart contract now. And so, oh wait, this is yesterday when I said I hope that the OA stakes for 1 to 4 years, so we get an easier centralized exchange listing. And then here is where it actually happened today. And yeah, people are pumped about that. So like that's one thing that's happening that is getting people excited, but there's information asymmetry, and so the rest of the market hasn't appreciated this yet. And then so that's like historic news. And then here's my price prediction for what PLS could do off of some of the prices that we're seeing right now. And I don't think I've covered this in a video yet, so this is fresh content here. But I have in Twitter Spaces and at the PulseChain conference, I was talking about the math of how all this stuff works based on automated market makers and decentralized exchanges. And so I made the prediction here that the PLS is going to do a 1000x before the end of 2026. Right now we're at 4 zeros and a 3. And I think that, well, 1000x would put us to 3 cents. But I was saying on the Twitter Spaces, unlike when I was a first year YouTuber, like I'm not just pulling this number out of my ass. In 20, I'm basing it off of what's already happened on this chain. In 2024, we did a 10x on $40 million of buying, and half of that was the sacrifice address, and the other half was people wanting to swim with the whales, retail buying. Now the liquidity is about 3x thinner. And that, as for people who aren't like, really going into my posts, like there's a lot of information here that I didn't even type up. Like I just put it into the pictures, where I've used Grok 3, which is a better AI than OpenAI and ChatGPT. But I'm showing my math here. I'm like, why you're getting a force multiplier. It's calling it a combined effect that scales non-linearly due to the automated market maker curve. So in plain English, that's a force multiplier that's happening based on the liquidity dropping and the amount of buying going up. And so, I mean, what we're really looking at, if we got a $328 million buy, is a 2500x. But I kind of wanted to water that down a little bit, so I watered it down to 1000x. But basically, that's why you want to dig into my posts as much as you can. Here's a website made by the community called pampi.app, PAMPI.app, and it shows, it's a calculator that shows you how much price appreciation you would see in the core RH tickers based on a certain amount of buying. And I based the amount of buying on another tool we have called lookintorh.com, which is tracking the sacrifice address amount. And then what I did for this post is I broadened it and I said, well, we don't have any expectations, right? And like, that's not our money. It's not a treasury. But let's just imagine like an account that size buying, because that account did buy $20 million worth before. So what if an account like that was buying that had a shark position? Because if you have about $328 million worth of Ethereum, that means that you have about 1/1000th of the supply. And when somebody gets called a whale, that's because they have 1% of the supply of a token. A shark is a tenth of that. A dolphin is a tenth of that, so on and so forth. And but if you're an ETH shark, like the sacrifice address, it only takes one of you, one shark, to full port, buy, convert all of your Ethereum into PulseChain, and then you're gonna see really more than 1000x probably. But that's what I'm predicting, is you would see 1000x in Pulse.
Yeah, it's amazing you've come up with this, because I actually think it kind of alludes to, because I must admit, I noticed the liquidity thinning out, and I'm thinking, okay, this is a good thing in the short term that we're seeing a bit of this happening. Because just remember that it doesn't take as much financial energy to actually move the price. If your liquidity's thinned out, then obviously it doesn't take too much of a capital injection to actually start moving the price. And I think that kind of alludes to, and I think the elephant in the room for us in particular is that there's a certain part of the community in general that fixates on price, and that's all they fixate on. And I can understand that. I mean, if the prices are down the way they are, people are hurting. We can't move it. We can't get away from that. People are actually hurting, and it's understandable. And from our perspective, people are hurting across the board, right? So people that have sacrificed for PulseChain, for various other projects, obviously our project as well. But one of the things that people need to be reminded of is, there's two things for me. One is, when people sacrifice, there was always the ethos was not to have an expectation of to profit from the work of others. That was the case for Richard, which incidentally, I think from memory, if memory serves me correctly, it was $1.7 billion worth of sacrifice funds that came in for Pulse and PulseX. So when that happens, it's like you can have no expectation. But the reality is just, and certainly some recent comments that I've heard is everyone has an expectation, right? So we have an expectation, and, how dare the price of a token go down? And it's kind of like, well, okay, everyone, and I think from memory, there's over 50 projects that use the same mechanism, and they ran a sacrifice on PulseChain. And I dare say that the majority of those projects are down in price. And so whilst we can't ever dismiss the fact that people are hurting from that, what we can say is that, look, the whole chain is struggling, and the hope is that, when we get past all of this nonsense that Richard's having to deal with at the moment, we're going to see a return. And to your point, if we're looking at 1000x for the chain, that will have a flow-on effect for all projects. And, we're no different. And so, whilst there are a whole bunch of folk that just purely speculate on price, one of the things that, we sort of, when we launched liquid loans, the intent behind us and our ethos was always the notion of never selling. If you think about HEX was always the ethos that Richard espoused regularly, was that this is about delayed gratification. So from my point of view, what does that mean? And that was something that Scottish Dave and I actually aligned with. We thought, okay, we really like this, and we are Hexicans as much as anything else. And
Right.
I can remember thinking, okay, what does that really mean? It basically means you're not there to turn a profit from one day to the next because the price has gone up. You're there to actually achieve an outcome longer term. And that's
Right.
the analogy that we would use. And never selling, and this is the point that I think's been lost a little bit. And I'm sorry to keep going on this, Maddie, but I'll finish off quickly. The ethos of never selling didn't just apply to the Pulse token. It also applied to loan. And the reason for that is the loan token is a yield-bearing token. But different to other tokens that provide yield, it doesn't provide it to you in loan. It actually provides it to you in the asset that you are wanting to acquire more of, and that's PulseChain. So, for us, it just makes sense that people incidentally, that have been using the protocol, and I'll come back to this, Maddie, because I know you want to jump in, but people that have been using the protocol have actually benefited significantly from doing so. And I think in the first 12 months since launch, it was something like $8.1 million worth of value that's been provided to people that have actually been using the protocol. So putting aside the price of the loan token, people that have participated and used the protocol have shared in over $8.1 million worth of value. So from our point of view, we feel that we're doing what we can, but obviously the price of the token is not where we want it to be. But we would argue that that's endemic across the whole chain at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, if people just held Hex instead of sacrificed for liquid loans, they'd be down 99%. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's the same sort of thing, and I think that's the unfortunate part.
But I
mean,
mean,
people speculate.
But if somebody just used your protocol, they got $8 million, right? And so that's pretty commendable, I think, because just considering where people would have been, if they just held Hex at the top.
Yeah. Well, just think about this, Maddie. Just continuing on the argument that you've put forward around the potential 1000x, that $8 million is largely a combination of Pulse and USDL. Imagine if that 1000x happens, that 8 million becomes a significant amount of money for those that have actually been participating. So again, it's just, everyone fixates on the price because that's all they know, because they haven't spent the time to understand the protocol. But people that have understood the protocol and are using it are actually reaping the rewards, even in this environment where prices are down and people's sentiment's really low.
Yeah, my developer Future Us loves liquid loans and has used it, is using it. So I think some of the complainers are not even the people who share our values the most. And so I've found for my mental health that paying attention to the real ones and what they have to say is a whole lot better.
Yeah. Look, I must admit, for me, there's always going to be negativity. I must admit, I was really frustrated recently by some of the comments that were made. Another topic that came up was around liquidity and how come we're not providing a lot more liquidity. And the reality is we've been providing liquidity, but going back on what we said earlier, removing liquidity for PulseChains is actually a good thing if the capital injection happens. And our view has always been anyone can add liquidity, but we're not going to be adding significant liquidity to assist those that want to just exit out. So we're not there to provide exit liquidity for people. So people need to be reminded of that. We are not doing that. We're not providing exit liquidity for two reasons. One is it's not our role to do that anyway. And then secondly, the people that are using the protocol would be hurt by that, because you'd end up with all these people dumping the tokens, and it actually hurts the true believers and users of the protocol. So from our point of view, liquidity will happen, but we can't get away from the fact that until there's capital injection into the chain, it doesn't make any sense to provide significant liquidity. And it's something that I think will happen over time. But people just need to come to terms with the fact that, hey, look, just because the price of a token is down, and particularly loan token, it's not the important factor. It's using the protocol to build the wealth in PulseChain. That was the primary purpose why we came to building liquid loans. And it's
Yeah,
kind of annoying when you get
I
that, you
block
know?
people who tell me what to do with my money, and I usually block people who tell anybody what to do with their money, um, because those are not the type of people that are going to help me grow or are understanding the things I'm understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, like basically the time to sell is when other people are buying.
Yeah.
That's how markets work. And so that's where your liquidity comes from. Having lower liquidity means that people can sell for a higher price if they wait until people come and buy. Because if there's more people buying than selling, then the people who are buying are paying higher slippage than the people who are selling are paying slippage. And so everybody wins. Everybody gets what they want when people are patient. And so these people who don't even understand how markets work, who are just perma yelling at people, add liquidity, let me get a free ride. That's not how the real world works at all.
Yeah, exactly. But it's inevitable that people they hear these sort of comments, Maddie, and they jump on the bandwagon. And unfortunately, in that particular setting where I heard some of these comments, and I don't want to dwell too much on it. I don't want to remain, I'm certainly not going to be negative around any of that stuff because that's the reality of the marketplace. But we didn't have anyone really defending our position on that. And, it kind of made me reflect a little bit, because one of the comments that came up was that because we're not working. And I can assure you we're working really, really hard. It's just that Dave and I aren't necessarily, I'm not a natural YouTuber. To be honest, I'm always really nervous about being on YouTube. I'm not comfortable, but I admit that it's something we need to do more of. And in the past, Matty, you probably know we've had a couple of really, really good streamers. I think Jesse from Power City, he was fantastic. Jesse and I didn't always see eye to eye, but he's a really, really strong candidate for a number of projects on PulseChain, and he was very good for us at the outset. And the reason that Jesse had to move on is because he had a conflict of interest with Power City. So it kind of made sense, we parted as friends. And to be honest, Jesse's still very active in our own Telegram community. And I really value his input and insights. And, I was on a call with him just 2 days ago. And he's a fantastic character and different to me, but I really value his input. And the other young fella that, again, has, for personal reasons, is no longer sort of front facing is Walrus. Now, Walrus, for me, he's one of the most intelligent, bright individuals I've ever met in my life. He's such a knowledgeable guy, and he was fantastic for us. But again, people taking pot shots at Walrus and some of the content that was being produced, it just, I guess you've got to have a level of resilience, but I can understand people get worn out by that sort of thing. And so again, Walrus is very much still part of the team. He's on Telegram responding as required, but he's not front facing. And so what that's meant is that, predominantly, and we'll take this on the chin, that we probably need to be a little bit more on YouTube providing some more content. I think the reality is that our focus has always been to educate and inspire. We try and stay away from all the drama, and I'm certainly not going to be dragged into having arguments with people around some nonsense that may have arisen, but I'm happy to defend our position on things. So from that point of view, expect to see a little bit more of me. It's not going to be daily, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we're not working. It just means that it's not a natural inclination for me, but more than happy to provide updates on not just liquid loans, but some of the other projects that we're working on.
Cool. Yeah. And you guys have certainly been building a lot of really cool tools for the community and that sort of thing. Are there any other points you want to make about like the loan token and sacrifices and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think so in terms of the loan token, yes, we just acknowledged the price is not where we want it to be. But just remember, if you use the protocol and stake your loan token, you're actually, it's almost like you're dollar cost averaging into PulseChain, because that's how you're getting rewarded. And if once you've staked, you're just accumulating more and more Pulse. So again, if we end up seeing 1000x, what a better way of doing it is, and you're not physically transacting to acquire Pulse, you're just staking your loan token. So from our point of view, use the protocol. We're expecting to see a really healthy return as things improve for PulseChain more broadly. The other thing, though, I did want to point out, though, Maddie, is that we've, and again, just talking about the things that we have done, we've built something, and again, I'm not sure how many people are aware of this, but something called PulseChain Safe, which is effectively just a Gnosis Safe equivalent available for anyone to use on PulseChain. So it's a multi-sig environment that you can actually create multi-sig wallets. We use it for a lot of our deployments. We know that other people have been using it. There's no cost to use PulseChain Safe, but that is something that we've built for the community. The other thing that we've put in place is there's a number of marketing sites. So one of the things that Dave and I sort of looked at and reflected on, we thought, you know what, there's really no one central place that really helps to promote the chain and all the various projects. So we built a site called gopulsechain.com. And the intent of that site is that it's almost like a calling card. It's just intended to help promote the chain and the various projects on there. So people that want to go there and want to promote and want to share Richard's ethos and provide insights into how the chain's performing and the various projects that are on there, it's such a great tool. It just makes it really easy to say, hey, go to gopulsechain.com. There's a hell of a lot of content there. You can have a look at all the various projects, get some insights into how they operate. And I think from last count, there's over 50 projects that have been listed on the site, perhaps even more now. But the reality is that there's a hell of a lot of opportunity for people to use that site as a bit of a calling card. The other thing that we've done, and because we've been quite deliberate around getting a broader reach, is that a lot of our news articles and content that we provide or publications, we're wanting to reach a broader audience. And so we've created something called the Coin Zone. So the coinzone.com.
Well, let me highlight
Yeah.
gopulsechain.com here real quick, because this is a really cool website. I've got it pulled up on the screen now, and look at how beautiful this site is. I mean, it's just so well done, and it's scrolling through all the different like marketing catchphrases that could be used. Like, this is the investors chain, this is the people's chain, this is, it's probably going to say something about free speech, developers chain. And then you've got these live stats in like beautiful colors, all the colorways are on point, and this is what somebody would need to see in like one snapshot to be like, oh, this is all the information that I was going to use to decide whether to put my $328 million into PulseChain or not. Like I was talking about before, we got somebody in the chat who's like so wise. They're saying, oh, 1000x? That's impossible. Okay, cool story, bro. Like, how about you give me like a little bit more information, because I pointed to a bunch of really specific things that makes me think that PulseChain could do 1000x, and you pointed to nothing to say why it couldn't. And so I'm pointing to this now, this gopulsechain.com, as and this in particular, these live stats are the kind of thing that you would want to see if you were a whale trying to decide if you wanted to put millions of dollars into PulseChain. You would want to know what the PLS price is. You'd want to know the 24-hour volume, the market cap. You would want to know the total supply, the number of projects, the number of validators, the number of daily transactions, and the number of wallet addresses. Like, that's all the information that you need. We got somebody in the chat saying this website is amazing. Somebody asked about Maddie token. The liquidity, there was 30K of liquidity put in there, and it bought back like, I don't know, 5 or 10% of the total circulating supply, which is pretty cool. And that's something that has happened periodically. So that's kind of cool. Okay.
Just so you know, there's also, just for a bit of fun, if you have a look at under Explore, and
Okay.
have a look at community. Have a look at community.
Oh yeah, I really is this the rankings? Yeah.
The
Oh yeah,
ranking, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like this one. I was
So I
gonna
think you're
try
in
to
the
bring
top
this
10
up,
there.
yeah, because like communities, especially if you're decentralized, we love competition, and we love like honestly, the community would you if you think this community is toxic or negative now, if people don't know where they are in the hierarchy, that like leads to humans losing it even more than you thought possible. So like this from a psychological perspective, I would say it's like this is actually a really healthy like scoreboard where if you just look at who's in the top 10 here and how positive are those people, those are the people that are cross promoting each other. They're speaking positively to people, giving people new information every day, showing up and volunteering. Everybody knows who all these 10 people are, and there's the list goes on and on with like recognizable names. So it's yeah, this is really
It
encouraging.
just it's just helpful. That aspect of it was a bit of fun, but and this is just for PulseChain. But if you have a look at the other thing that we've built, it's called the Coin Zone. That's where most of the news articles are, and our intention
Now
there
I
is to
haven't
try and
seen that
reach.
before. I haven't
Yeah,
seen that. Where?
have
How
a,
do I get to that?
so hopefully that's available. It's just called
Is it
thecoinzone.com.
it's a separate website?
Yeah, it's a separate website. Yeah,
Okay. And what's the domain?
it's thecoinzone.com.
Nice. Ooh, we're getting an unveiling here, I hope. My internet's going a little bit slow here, but
I,
let's see if it'll
I
pop
hope
up.
so too. Yeah, there we
Is
are.
this it?
Yeah, this is it. So you can see that the
Oh,
intent of
cool.
this was to actually to reach a broader audience, right? So our intention is, whilst we're producing news and content regularly, we didn't want it to be totally specific around PulseChain. We wanted to reach a broader audience. So if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see some of the articles, and obviously there's articles about Richard and PulseChain, but there's also a whole bunch of other articles that people may be interested in reading. And so again, the intention of this is to try and reach a broader audience, to introduce them to Pulse. And so for us, this is an important step. But again, people sort of make these disparaging comments that we're not working because we're not in YouTube. It's like, come on, guys. Really? We're building a hell of a lot of content that we're hoping that people within the community, but also outside the community, can gain some value from. And so we have a number of authors that write content and produce content for us. And, our aim is obviously to bring more attention to PulseChain, and this is just another aspect of that. There is something else that
Wow.
I did want
I
to talk
didn't
about.
even know about
Yeah,
this. This is cool. So,
yeah,
and I just had to throw on dark mode because I don't want people's eyes to bleed, but I love this. And look at how sharp like each of these article thumbnails are. The variety of news that's being covered. This is really well done. And I didn't even know about this. So now this is something that I can share with friends and family. I mean, there's a whole demographic of people who I know in real life who could be onboarded to PulseChain much easier if they had articles to go to, instead of just having to go to Twitter or, a lot of the mainstream crypto media blocks PulseChain from being fairly covered in articles and whatnot. And so
yeah.
this is completely underrated. And I know that you just said like people think you guys aren't working. Uh, well, this is breaking news on YouTube to me about this website, so I'm excited to hear about it, and that
Yeah.
still gives me a lot of hope that there are a lot of people out there who maybe don't know all the good stuff you guys are doing, and now they can learn about that. And shout out to
Yeah.
Cultivate Crypto who's in the chat right now. You rock. I was on a
Yeah.
stream with him last week, and Honda has dropped a $2 super chat. Hodl,
Nice.
most underrated network in the industry. I assume you're referring to PulseChain and Fast Abdul, throwing out the website there for people if they want to check it out. We also got Drix in the house, who's one of our PulseChain musicians that created some of the jams that we put for the Hex conference and PulseChain conference. And we got the PulseChain tour here, spreading positivity, as well as Susie Q. And Charlie from Cultivate Crypto says, PulseChain is the best, bros. We're all in this together. Dig it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess whilst we're unveiling, the other big unveil that we've kept under wraps a fair bit is, we've been working on an Oracle service for the chain, and we actually have launched Fetch. So if you actually have a look at fetchoracle.com, it's actually live, right? So we've been using it, and there's a number of people that have been using Fetch. For us, that was important infrastructure for the chain. And I actually think, and I do know, because there's another team that were building something similar, I think Sigmund, and these guys are going to release another Oracle, which is a really good thing for the community, right? So whilst we're obviously very positive about Fetch, it's really good that these guys have actually produced an equivalent Oracle service that others can use as well. So, and what we've tried to do with Fetch Oracle, because Oracles generally, people think, oh, what the hell is an Oracle? And you can imagine we've had a bit of struggle just getting people's heads across how to use liquid loans. Fetch is really important to have a whole bunch of reporters reporting price feeds, and the price feeds can be on-chain or off-chain, but it's really important that you have a decentralized way of doing that. So we've been able to build this and make it really usable for the majority of people that may not be familiar with Oracle services. And so there's a whole bunch of tools there that trying to help people really understand what this is all about. And from last count, I think there was over 20, or there were just about 20 reporters running at the moment. And whilst Dave and I, we've stayed hands off, just allow the community to run with this, we're hoping that people start to cotton on to the benefits. And I think, obviously, if you're interested in the Oracle service, just like most other protocols, there is a staking mechanism there. And I think the APRs at the moment are really, really healthy. So anyone interested, have a look at fetchoracle.com. There's plenty of content there. There's also a little wizard that actually navigates you through how you would go about setting up a reporter. So, Matty, we're trying to do everything we can to add as much value as we can, despite the fact that if you're just going to judge us on the price of a loan token, it's kind of like, oh, it's so frustrating. And we know that, we're very hopeful that things change over time, and we'll just keep building. And our focus has always been to educate and inspire. And despite the fact that we've had a little bit of negativity, we'll continue to support conferences like the Hex conference, the Pulse 369 conference. We've also been to other conferences. I think you're familiar with Adam Stokes. So I caught up with Adam. I'm no longer in Australia. I haven't been there for quite some time, but I caught up with him at one of the conferences there in Australia. So we're doing our bit to try and help promote PulseChain. And just by those two sort of sites, you get a sense of what we're all about, right? So we're doing our best to help people. That little wizard is that quick start guide. So the quick start guide, if you click on that, have a quick look at that. It's pretty cool. So let's go. I'm in. Let's go.
Oh, nice.
And then there's your little wizard. Yeah, your little wizard sort of helps you navigate through and sort of guides you in terms of how to go about setting up a reporter. It's just another tool. There's plenty of other content there, but it's just another way for people to become familiar with what the Oracle service is providing. And again, I do want to sort of congratulate, I can't remember the fellow's name, to be honest. I wish I could remember. But there is another Telor Oracle equivalent called Sigmund. I'd suggest people have a look at that as well. Again, if you're more technically savvy, I think providing feeds through a number of different oracles is really good. I don't think it's something that you just want to have one oracle. You want to have a number. So having other teams bring on board Oracle services is really, it's heartening from our point of view.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so your kind of savviness with technical things and everything, that's probably why all stars like Crypto Coffee 369 is always throwing positive comments your way and supporting you guys, is because you've got a lot of fans when it comes to the quality stuff that you guys are building. And I can't imagine that making an Oracle was easy.
It was really hard. It was hard because I think what we used for, Tellor was the basis of what we used. But the reality is that whilst it's a very good operating system, it's almost like, God, if you don't have an instruction manual on how to build something, and it was never easy. You've got to have a really technical bent to become a reporter. And I kept thinking, how on earth are we going to get people really understanding and using this unless they actually immerse themselves in the protocol, and we provide enough guidance. I think once people have a look at it, you don't have, we're not suggesting people necessarily need to invest, but go and have a look at it. At least educate yourself in terms of what the Oracle is there to provide. And those that are participating are actually being rewarded for that. So we're really pleased with what we've brought to the community, despite the fact that we've copped a lot of negative flack just of late. We'll keep doing what we do best, which is just to educate and inspire. And that's the best we can offer. And look, if people are wanting to see more of my face, I'll take that on the chin, that, perhaps I need to be a little bit more out there. As I said, we've had Jesse and Walrus in the past, both fantastic guys. But I think now's the time for me to step it up a little bit more and just provide a little bit more of an update. So it's not just relying on me coming on Maddie's stream. It's a little bit more that we can do on the end.
Well, you do a great job streaming whenever I see you on with Crypto 7 or Adam Stokes or myself. And so the more that all of us can show our faces, I think the better. But here's a comment, but I want to kind of make it a little bit more broad. So let's say that somebody had a question having to do with the Teller Oracle. Where would they go to ask that question? And then how would you answer this one?
Yeah, I think that the best way is to join the Telegram group. So there is a Telegram group called Fetch Oracle. So if you go to the Fetch Oracle, there's a bunch of admins there that can actually provide assistance and help for anyone wanting to have a look at the reporters, or how to set up a reporter, how to automate some of the reporting, how to actually manage it. So it is a little bit tricky once you dive into the detail, but the Telegram group's the best place to start, I would think.
Okay, yeah, I just put that out there, t.me/fetch oracle. I'm in there. 900 other people are in there. Ultra Bullish could be in there too. Do you have any comments about how protocols think about using oracles versus time-weighted average price?
Yeah, I think probably the main distinction we'd make is that time-weighted average is fine, but it usually is just 1 point, and that represents a single point of failure. So whilst, hey, we needed to do this from the outset, having a decentralized mechanism basically means that it's not a single point of failure. You've got potentially 15 people or 20 people reporting the price of an asset rather than just using a particular liquidity pool. And if that represents a single point of failure. So having multiple ways of providing information is really important for projects. But again, it's something that projects have to become familiar with. And look, the reality is not every project needs that. The other thing that I know, there's some projects looking or needing things like random number generators. And I know that there's content available within Fetch to enable that. We won't build that. And the reason why is there are a number of ways to create a random number, but projects can look at that. And anyone wanting to explore that further can reach out to us in the Telegram group, and we can provide assistance for anyone wanting to build that sort of capability. But again, Maddie, I come back to my initial comment, and that is that we keep doing what we do best, which is educate and inspire and build content that hopefully not just community members, but other project builders can actually take advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if this person's trolling, but they said they put I think that means they put $1.5 million into the PulseChain sacrifice if they had 15 billion PLS. So I mean, welcome to the party and welcome to crypto. And yeah, I mean, like I think it's cool when people sell local tops because then they can come in and buy the bottom, or they can sell the bottom if they're kind of still holding some, and that's just creating more opportunity for me. So yeah, there you go. Gus, I
It's
got
just, it's an inevitability. It's an
the the
inevitability that
whales come
people will
out. The
complain
whales
about
come out
price.
when we're on this channel. It's whether it's a millionaire or a billionaire watching, they're out there.
So the only thing, and I think I can't remember who made the comment, but somebody made the comment that if I come out on stream, all of a sudden I'm working. Well, guess what, guys? We've been working really hard. But I
Right?
think just as
Yeah.
a bit of
Look at those
just
sites.
a bit of a dig at the individual that made that comment, I'm going to come out the first stream that I'll come out on, and I'll wear my sunglasses because I think I need to look cool.
Right. The future's too bright, as Crypto 7 would say.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
somebody, I mean, if you have 15 billion pulse, and my prediction that we get 1,000x comes true, you're gonna be sitting really close to being a billionaire. I mean, you're up in the hundreds of millions of dollars there. So hey, if you need to go use Time Pays Me, it's a website called timepays.me, and you can learn how to use it at x.com/timepaysme, and you can drip that back to yourself so you don't sell it on a double. And that's been audited and the whole 9 yards.
yeah.
I really, this might seem silly to people who don't see the future like I can, but I'm probably gonna make an episode one of these days where I suggest to the OA that they use Time Pays Me, because how much easier is it going to be to get a centralized exchange listing for Pulse or PulseX if you don't have 95% of the supply just sitting there chilling on the sidelines? And if it was actually provably locked, and hey, maybe we can work out some sort of, you can fork it and take a 0 or 2 off of the fees. It's already pretty fairly priced at being a third of the price of a swap to be able to use the protocol. But maybe we'll give a multi billionaire discount out there for somebody who wants to make a fork of that. But
Yeah.
either way, I think, yeah, it's we're at the point now where we're gonna see, we're all gonna be tested. I famously sold my PDI on a double and I made $200, and then later that was worth $40,000. Okay, so
No.
even me with all the tools that I have to time lock stuff, if you don't time lock it, it can be gone real quick.
Yeah, that's right. That's the scary part. We all speculate. Let's face it. We all like to speculate.
Right.
But we can't ever forget what's the underlying ethos. It's
Right.
delayed gratification, never
Yep.
selling.
Yep.
That's what we should be about. And build stuff, bring more people into the community. So let's not try and cannibalize each other. Let's get out there and promote what we've got, because I think what we have at the moment and what Richard's provided to us is a fantastic platform. But we need to come together and be more collaborative rather than combative. That's what I would ask.
Right. Somebody's asking, like, where can you find the audit for Time Pays Me, and it's gonna be like so easy to find, but I'll just show you real quick. If you go to Time Pays, or if you go to x.com/timepaysme, and then if I share my screen here, it's gonna be in the pinned tweet, and it's gonna give you instructions on like how to use Time Pays Me. And guess what? Part of using Time Pays Me is probably like, seeing that there's an audit. So There's instructions on how to use the testnet version of Time Pays Me, where to that might be an outdated link of how you get test ETH. But remember, you can use Time Pays Me on Ethereum and on PulseChain. And then just here in the second tweet, you can see the audit, which has been done by SourceHat, and you can click here and it'll take you straight to the audit for Time Pays Me.
Awesome.
Cool.
Maddie, thank you so much for allowing me to jump on today. I know it's late for you, and it's been really worthwhile. I just hope that, you know, I feel that the future's bright for the community, but we've just got to get away from just, you know, let's stop the competitive stuff and let's focus on what we can be doing together and building together, and trying to get a broader outreach, right? Trying to reach audiences that perhaps are not aware of PulseChain, and trying to get some of those folks interested in what we're building.
Well, it's always awesome to see when you come on and you represent how much ass kicking you've been doing, how much actual work you've gotten done by showcasing all these cool tools that we talked about today. If you're just joining in now, you got to go watch from the beginning of the episode and see what Liquid Loans has been up to. And then they say that you might see them on more streams, and that'll be cool too, because that'll help people remember, like, who are the top dogs in PulseChain. Oh, it's people who are at the top of that list of influencers. It's people who had $50 million sacrificed, all these things, and who are building all these things. Like, those are the real chads of PulseChain, and everybody whining is probably somebody you want to mute and just ignore, because when the winning starts, you're not going to be able to see who the real winners are, because everybody's going to be cheering. But it's when people are whining that I find that I'm able to focus on the signal to noise ratio, and that's something that Richard has always, he's always talked about in all of his chats over the years. Like rich people, successful people, and everybody in between, like, they want a high signal to noise ratio, because it means you're not wasting their time and you're providing value, you're providing the right information. That's what you guys do. That's what I do. And so that's why I'm so pleased that you're able to come on tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matty. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
So where would you direct people to stay in touch with you and find more of your content?
I think that, Telegram's probably the best place for most contact. And obviously there's the Liquid Loans Telegram group. But I think anyone interested in the Fetch Oracle, certainly direct them to that. But Telegram is really the best place to reach out. And as I said, it's just like one thing that I really, and Matty, I should commend our team. We've got a fairly large team. And I think, Scottish Dave looks after a lot of the marketing work. I tend to focus. I'm a bit of an introvert, believe it or not, but I tend to focus on the development side of things. And as a result of that, the two of us come together. But the teams are doing a lot of work. And, especially in the development, I can speak to the development side of things. So you'll see some of the content that we're producing is fantastic. But those guys need to be commended. And they just I catch up with these guys on a daily basis. So we have what we call daily stand-ups. And we're managing all of the work that we need to do. But that's the thing that people need to understand, is that there is a team that sits behind us that is actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And so they are to be commended. And look, as I said, particularly in the admin group, we've got a lot of people in Telegram that provide support to the community. And there's a number of our team that are actually providing that support for Fetch Oracle at the moment. But I know that there's a lot of community members jumping on board, and I think they're loving it. They're loving it because it's new technology. It's something a little bit different, and they're learning a hell of a lot in the process. And we're excited by that as much as anything else. So, Matty, thank you very much again for allowing me to jump on your stream. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah. And so as everybody knows, I'm going to be continuing to keep my streak alive of going live every Tuesday and Thursday night We're up to 224 weeks now. And so a couple days from now, you'll get a full dose of myself and Crispy and Fast Abdul and Kareem. The Game Theory gang will be reunited again after our travels and whatnot out to the PulseChain conference. And then as I'm just loading up the thumbnail here, you can find the rest of my content at mati.pls.fyi, or you can go to pulsechainconference.com and click on the links there. So thanks again for CC and Liquid Loans for being on. And until next time, stake wisely, my friends, and peace out.
Thanks, Matty. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.